Hey guys, before we get started on today's episode, if you wouldn't mind supporting the channel just by liking and subscribing, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, just leave a review for us. And even if you're on YouTube, just comment down below what you want us to hear about or what you want us to talk about. It really helps us get even bigger guests and helps us grow even more. If you want to support us on a further level and you live in the Greater Toronto Hamilton area and you want to work with us or just see if we're a good fit, click the first link down below in the description. You'll book a call from the comfort of your own home, get to know us a little bit better, our style, how we plan to sell or help you buy your first home or maybe second home, whatever it might be. We just go over your situation. It's completely free. All right, without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, guys, welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Homefront podcast. Almost forgot our name.
After how many episodes do you still get it wrong?
One time, give me a break. Me and Brooke have been pretty busy here working away, so we haven't had a time to hop into the studio. So we're just going to do this on Zoom. We do have pretty good mics and pretty crisp sound, so I hope you guys aren't too upset by this, but we're going to get into it. The Bank of Canada dropped its interest rate. I know we've all been talking about this, but I just want to dive into it a little bit deeper to kind of give people a better understanding of what the heck's going on, because I've just been getting way too many messages and people just aren't understanding what this actually means. So I'm going to quickly explain my thoughts and then I'll pass it over to Brooke. So basically what we're seeing right now is the Bank of Canada dropped 25 basis points. But for people that do know, the overnight rate is connected to the variable rate and the bond market is connected to the fixed rate. Now, the fixed rate is the more popular product, especially right now, because the fixed rate is cheaper than the variable rate. And the reason why is because the bond market is very forward looking. It's done by traders. Traders trade and it sets the precedent for the bond market, the Canadian 5-year bond yield. So what we're seeing right now is the variable rate be around 5.75 for a mortgage term. So it's around 5.75 to 6. The best one's about 5.75, but a fixed rate right now for 3 years is about 5%. So even if the Bank of Canada cuts another 75 basis points, which is kind of what the market is predicting by the end of the year, we still have that fixed rate and the variable rate won't get there till the end of the year. So it really doesn't do a whole lot for the market. Not to mention that for every 100 grand that you borrow on the variable rate, it only changes your payment by $15. So if you're 200K mortgage, it changes it by $30. So if you're hurting and you took a variable rate at when rates were 25 basis points, now they're 5%, it's not going to do a lot to help you. Like maybe it's going to help you pay for your Netflix membership or something like that,
Yeah.
but it won't do too much, to be honest. But anyways, Brooke, what do you think of the announcement?
Um, yeah, I think a lot of people were saying they expect things to speed up a little bit in the market if they did drop rates, but we posted that post on our story basically saying what you just said is the fixed rates are already at that 5% mark. So the variable coming down, you could technically just go get a fixed rate lower than what you can get a variable rate for. So it's not like everything's come down and made anything really that much cheaper in
Yeah,
terms of, and it doesn't really change your buying power much either. Just because it's so minimal. However, it is a start. They haven't reduced the rate in what, 4 years? So, um, I mean, it's a start. I don't think that we're going to see anything drastic happen over the next, actually at all, just because of how drastic things changed over COVID. I think that that's now a no-no in terms of where the Bank of Canada stands. It's, we're going to make these decisions slowly. We're not going to throw too much fire or fuel on the fire, and we're not going to raise it, like they're going to make decisions way slower than they ever did, I think. Um, which should keep things in more of a balanced market, right? It was the volatility of the rates flying down, then flying up. Now that we're kind of stable, I think we're going to stay in that stability, I suppose, in terms of rate fluctuations.
yeah, yeah. So what I posted on our Instagram was that the bond yield went up. So it was at 3.4% that it jumped up tenth of a basis point to 3.5%. So that means that fixed rates are actually going up, even though the variable rate was coming down. So
Yeah.
trying to wrap your head around that. I know it's a lot, but that's why we do this show, is just to understand that. But why is the bond yield going up. Like, why? Well, it's not just they trade on Canadian news, they trade on global news. So when the US does really well, then our yield will go up. So the US economy is doing really well. So the Federal Reserve over there and Jerome Powell, who's like our Tiff Macklem, is not going to drop rates. They're guessing by December, but since the economy is doing so well, there's no need to drop that rate. So then what
Right.
happened was the job report came out for the US. It was good. So basically what happened was, okay, traders trade because traders are forward looking, right? They react faster than the Bank of Canada reacts because the Bank of Canada meets every, maybe every month, but they skip a few months. They have their meetings online if you ever want to look them up. The next one's in July, but they're very forward looking. And that's how they were able to really predict that the Bank of Canada was going to cut rates and the bond market can continuously move. So that's why most people pick a fixed rate. Not a lot of people pick a variable rate. And especially right now, because the variable's higher, I'm not sure why you would take a variable unless you had a crystal ball, because you don't know what's going to happen. If inflation reaccelerates, then they have to raise that overnight rate again, or you could just lock into something for 3 years and know, hopefully in 3 years, the economy won't be as volatile, but my payments are going to be the same.
Unless you have more of a short term, sorry. There we go. Unless you have more of a short-term plan, right? Because fixed rates have a way higher penalty when it comes to breaking that mortgage. Yes, some are portable, especially if you port an increase. Typically, you can save the penalty if you're moving that mortgage over. However, the penalties are large. If you're looking to, test out, okay, I'm going to try living in Hamilton. I'm from Toronto. Do you lock in for 3 years and then, after 2 years, you're like, I want to go back kind of thing. So it does allow that, flexibility, a little bit more, or do a shorter 1 year or a shorter fixed term. Like I love my 1 year terms. It just allows me to either, if the market's up, I can maybe pull some money at the end of each year. I can refinance money in if, I'm negative. It gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of my mortgage. Yes, I've been, had the brink of the crazy increases, but I still feel like I'm not so locked into it for so long. If I ever did want to pull money from that and, I found a great deal in a city I'd rather be in kind of thing. And that's usually typically what I go with. Or if it's an investment property too, right? Things
Yeah.
change. Life changes. A lot can change in 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That's even like, I know as a realtor, we shouldn't say this because we're trying to make all the money, but it's even like why I tell people to rent sometimes. I'm like, they're like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years. I want to sell this in a year. I'm like, just rent. Like, you don't know. There's too many costs associated with owning real estate that like you need to have that long-term mindset with it. And if you are able to be liquid in 2-3 years because something like COVID happens and you're able to make a bunch of money, then awesome. Like you
Yeah.
you weren't smart, you just got lucky, and that can
Yeah.
happen. And it's happened a lot in real estate. But I think just to wrap up the interest rate talk is just, a lot of realtors are posting, and I love how me and Brooke have this podcast. We're on the same page because we follow the data. I just can't even fathom how realtors and mortgage brokers are out there just, pumping this and just reposting it and just saying like, this is
Yeah.
so good. Like you need to get in now. Like the FOMO's back. Like, it's just, I don't know. I would just never work with someone like that. Even if it was a different industry, I'd be like, well, like, I can find more information. I can be more educated myself just watching a few YouTube videos than you. And this is your full-time job. So I
Right.
think that hiring the right people, especially in this market, mortgage brokers, realtors, whatever it might be, is super important. So that's where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to wrap up there. I think that we'll see what happens. There's some more data to come out before July, but I guess enjoy the moment at the 25 basis point is what Tiff Macklin said in his press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll see a shift in the economy and we'll see rates come down, but at least for now, it's not substantial.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Zero. I mean, we're headed in the right direction, at least. At least, you know what? I like that he reduced, even though I was wrong. I thought he was going to hold because I'm less scared of people because it's like, okay, people are up in arms about the rates and the cost of living and the Bank of Canada and Trudeau. And I hear it all the time. And I'm like, don't freak out your people too much. Like give them a little bit to hold on to give them hope. Um, keep keeps the country safer.
Yeah.
I'm not even lying. Just the amount of hostility I've seen in our country in the last year because of the cost of, and I understand it. Even like TikToks and just people, wanting a change in government, which I can understand, but the level of hostility is nothing like I've ever seen. And you talk to the baby boomers, our parents, and they're like, the world has become a harsher place to live in. And it's true, right? So giving that sense of relief of we're headed in the right direction to some people that are just trying to stay above water is good. And, a rate cut was called for. I mean, we were negative GDP for how many quarters in a row? It's like, it doesn't
Yeah.
need to be at 5% anymore based on the numbers. So no, I think it was a smart decision.
Yeah,
Um,
per capita, I think we had 7 negative quarters of GDP. So
yeah,
I think each person is $20,000 less productive than an American. So it's pretty substantially bad. So our economy is not heading in the right direction for sure. Speaking of like hostility and stuff like that, you were talking about that. I think it's only going to grow worse as like this is the like year of elections like across the world. Like
I'm scared.
the EU just had their elections, and it was, I hate these terms, left wing and right wing, but like the conservative parties got in, and it's a change, right? Belgium, their prime minister, I think it's a prime minister. Don't get all upset in the comments if I got that wrong. But he's actually out of power now, and he was considered the leftist, and now the rightists are in power now, and Trump's leading the polls as well, and he's probably going to win that election in the States. And then as we're seeing in polls here, Pierre Poilievre is probably going to win that. And I'm not saying which side I'm on, if I'm even on a side. I'm just saying like this is what the data is telling us, is that a change in power is coming. And I think it's really welcomed by a lot of people, that they want change, and that, this debt spiral we've gotten ourselves into, and I could name a bunch of other stuff economically. But yeah, I think for once the news is, hey, there's a rate cut, and it's not huge, but it's something to talk about, and it's something
Yeah.
to analyze and go from there. But all right, let's hop into the next topic here. So again, why is the bond yield continuing to go up? Well, Canada's May job exceeds forecasts. Wage growth accelerates. So the Canadian economy added more jobs than expected in May. The jobless rate ticked up to 6.2%, and the growth rate of wages accelerated to a 4-month high, data showed on Friday. The economy added 26,700 jobs, more than the 22,500 job gain forecast by analysis in the Reuters poll. The rising unemployment rate is enough to keep the Bank of Canada on track to reduce rates again in July. That said, there are a significant number of data releases between now and then. Government of Canada yields are up, but that's mostly in sympathy with the U.S. Treasuries. With strong data out of the U.S., the Canadian dollar is losing ground on the day. So, like we've talked about before, right? The loonie is on track to devalue versus the US dollar. And Tiff Macklem said their main goal is inflation, not currencies. So
Who
again,
posted that they confirmed that the loonie will be sacrificed? Somebody
yeah,
posted that.
that's Steve Soretsky out in
Yeah.
Vancouver, a part of the Loonie
Yeah, yeah.
Hour. Yeah, so they had some really good stuff about it too. I was listening to that podcast, and they were talking about how like David Eby, who's the Vancouver or the British Columbia mayor or something like that, the mayor of
Mhm.
Vancouver, maybe, I can't remember which one he is, but even though, and then the premier, our dear premier Doug Ford here, he, they're tweeting like, thank God the Bank of Canada decreased, about time. Like, it's kind of embarrassing because like it's pretty understood that the Bank of Canada is independent of governments, and to have governments tweeting in like some sort of celebration of like, hey, we made inflation go rampant, we're a public servant, and we were a part of all the struggles that people are facing right now because of our policy decisions, and now you're like celebrating it as if it's like some sort of magical thing. Like, no, people are still hurting. No, the cost of
I
living
think
is
they
still
want to
high.
take away from the responsibility. It's like the Bank of Canada did it. Like, thank God the Bank of Canada reduced because, and like, we didn't decide for it to go as high. But again, as much as Tiff Macklem gets a lot of the hostility toward him because he's been the one to make these decisions in terms of the rate increases that needed to happen, I think he's smart. I think he knows what he's doing. I think that despite the pain that, a lot of us has felt in terms of the cost of borrowing and, people having to sell their houses and stuff. If inflation kept going the way it was going when we were at 8%, at some point you almost lose it where it's like it's too far gone. Like you look at countries like Venezuela. If inflation is too far gone, then he needed to do that, right? But that was a cause of government spending. So I think that's pretty comical comical as well. But I mean, we could talk till we're blue in the face about what alternatives the government could have done when they were overspending during a world pandemic, when people lost their jobs. Like CERB was a huge part of the overspending. It's like, what if CERB never happened? Would inflation have gone that high? Probably not. But then what would have happened to the people that had no money to support their children?
Yeah, it's such a tough argument,
It's
right?
a circle.
Yeah,
So
it really
I
is. It really is hard because you like you said, they had to raise rates, but did they take too long to raise rates? Probably. I think they should have really been on top of that more where they didn't. The housing market was too crazy. It was just too insane and people had too much money. And that was the thing with CERB, right? Is that you allowed people to delay paying off their mortgages and then you gave them money to stay at home that they weren't spending because you couldn't spend it anywhere because grocery stores were open, sorry, but restaurants were closed. You couldn't travel. Like there's just so many things that you couldn't spend that money on. So you just saved it, or you put it into the stock market, or you put it into a rental property, right? You started investing it because you had nothing else to do with it. And the yields were terrible back then on bonds. So you weren't going to buy bonds. And then I've been reading so much about, remember concerts? They've just been this like hot ticket. Like it's so hard to get a ticket anywhere. And now you have all these artists canceling these shows. And it really shows you the pent up demand, right? Because you were stuck at home. All you wanted to see was a concert. Oh my God, I can't wait to go to a concert again. And then people gone to concert. Now they just overdid it where they're just like, I don't want to go anymore. So there's been
I
artists
want to
that just,
stay home.
yeah, yeah. Or I don't have the money, right? And I
Right.
think
Yeah. Now that's spending money. I mean, for every dollar that Canadians earn, what do they say? A dollar, they owe
$1.80.
a dollar 80 in,
Yeah.
no, for every dollar of dispensable income, right? They owe a
Mhm.
dollar 80.
Yeah, yeah. So because we have the highest household debt compared to GDP, so it's not a good thing that we're seeing, right? It really isn't something that we should be celebrating as house prices continuing to go up. I know you and I are on the same page with this. Like commoditizing housing has definitely created a problem for a lot of people, and we need other asset classes for people to invest in. Because do you celebrate houses going up in price while people struggle to get by and rent and stuff like that? Like, I don't know if it's a celebratory thing because I think having a roof over your head is like obviously one of the most important things in the world for just prosperity in terms of like, okay, now that I have a roof over my head, I'm going to have children and those children are going
Right.
to, be the next generation to take on this world. But when you have people who can't afford a roof over their head, what do? You have nowhere to live, or you have multiple families living in one house. It doesn't seem like it's the right thing to celebrate. And that's what I hate about the rate cuts and realtors saying, get back in there. Like, and you almost create this sentiment that you're going to miss out. And I just feel like
Yeah.
it's so wrong because housing is it's so emotional. And you know it too, because when you go to buy a house, it's emotional. But when you sell someone's baby, when you sell someone's home, like that's where the real skill comes in, is
Yeah.
when, staging, setting the expectation, giving them feedback, and just being honest with what people think about their house. Like, hey, we don't like this finish. And that person went in and spent 50 grand on their kitchen, right? It's a different
Yeah.
ball game.
Yeah.
So yeah,
For sure.
my long-winded point is it's good we have a 25 basis point cut, but don't be that realtor or mortgage agent if you're listening to this and saying that the market's hot again, because Brooke and I have listings and I can attest that it is not scorching hot.
No, it takes skill. Like it does because listings will just sit if they're not properly listed with effort. Like the I'm about to list a townhouse in Waterdown, and the comparable unit a couple doors down. I'm looking at the listing and I'm looking at the photos, and I was like, makes my job a little bit easier because I would never put something up that looks like this with the sideways angle iPhone shots and blurry and just ridiculous. And I'm like, if it looks like that, there's no urgency with buyers, even with the rate cut, that people are going to be like, right? It doesn't make you want to see that house. Whereas I'm going to make the neighbor, I'm going to make the listing look like you want to see that house because it is beautiful. So I want to highlight the components of the house that is actually been so great for the sellers that could also be great for buyers. But if you're not doing that for your sellers, yeah, it's going to sit. Pricing it is huge right now. A lot of sellers stuck on high prices and buyers wanting the deal of the century still. But deals are happening. Deals are coming together, but it's definitely not on fire like it was.
Yeah, you made a great point is that like you have to make buyers want to see it. So buyers are looking on House Sigma, they're looking on realtor.ca, they're getting emails from their realtor and they're looking inside a listing. It's like opening up a present in a way, right? Like
Yeah.
that first picture I find so important and that's why we do the night shots as well. Like we make people want to click into the home and then when they click into the home, the photography is so good, the
Yeah.
real staging, not virtual staging that all these big teams do and because it's cheaper, but like the real staging that we spend money on, it makes that buyer want to keep clicking through the home and then go through the door. Like that's the only way you're going to sell a house is that if people are going through the door. If no one's going through the door, your marketing sucks. And if your marketing is really good and like you're looking at your listing saying, as a buyer, I would go look at my own house. Like don't be too biased. But if that's the case, then your price is too high.
Yeah.
Those are the factors right now in this market, right? You can put on Kijiji, you can run Facebook ads all day long, but 95% of the sale comes from the initial marketing pricing and then the MLS. Like that's where most of that's where most of the house sales.
Right. And a lot of people would say, like, for example, the amount of condos in both Hamilton and Toronto are crazy, crazy high right now in terms of inventory. So it's like, how do you sell yours when there's so many inventory? Do you just be the cheapest? Well, my advice for people when you have a lot of competing listings is the little things that don't cost much. Instead of listing cheaper, like 10 grand cheaper on MLS to be the cheapest one per se, if you really wanting to sell, it's the extra work of like changing the light fixtures. What does that cost you? $100 a light, make it prettier. Like if it's a condo, for example, change fixtures, the bathroom mirrors instead of the builder grade big square mirrors. Get really good staging in there, make it smell really nice. When I was going to sell my condo that I bought an assignment, about this time last year, and there was a lot of inventory. I was like, I got to play around with it. I messaged the builder to see if I could buy another parking spot. I had it on hold. Then I advertised my listing with 2 parking spots and one just to see if, have more options in terms of my buyers. I found somebody that needed a second parking spot, took the one I had on hold. Like, so that creativity, right? The videos that you and I do, but even down to the light fixtures that people are like, I don't want to change the light fixtures. It'll cost you less to stand out in doing the work than it will to just take that lower offer of or lower list price of 25K less to be the cheapest one there. And then people are like, well, why is that one so cheap kind of thing? And you're bringing down the value. Fresh paint, window coverings are big in condos. So it's these little things that, a buyer's opinion or when they walk into a condo and then they see the rest, it's like, that one feels homey. That one has, window coverings, and that one had really pretty lighting, yellow light. That made me feel good. Maybe even the fake grass on the balcony kind of thing, lights around the balcony, just like, those little things that when I go through Toronto condos right now, it's like, I'm not even surprised that there's so many listed. It's like, none of these make me want to go. And okay, keep in mind, there's some that are beautiful and agents do a really good job. I'm not saying that all these agents aren't, because there's some awesome freaking agents in Toronto, but the bulk of them, I'm just going through them and I'm like, what's this one over this one kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, 100%. You have to like make people walk in and be like, I want to stay here. Like
Mhm.
cleanliness is if you have crumbs on your counter or you just cooked a meal and it's like doesn't smell like it smells like bad or like your bed isn't made. Like I tell all my sellers, I'm like, you need to like live in here and it's gonna suck. But it's
Oh
gotta be
yeah,
clean.
living
Yeah.
living with your house for sale, and if you actually follow our suggestions, sucks.
Yeah.
Sucks.
It
It does.
sucks. And it's like you have a green bedroom or like a bright blue bedroom. I say, look, It's not a must, but I'm like, if it was me, I would really suggest you get this painted. And then I recommend like getting a cleaner in and deep cleaning and making the toilets in the bathroom look really clean and sparkly. And like Brooke said, make it smell nice. Maybe light a candle. Little things like that. You just got to do things that
Closet doors in condos. How many of those like flimsy closet doors? Closet doors are so cheap if you know where to look. And these are things that your realtor can point out. But it's like those little things where it's like, if you give me $1,000 to point out what to spend in your condo, light fixtures, closet doors, paint, maybe window cover, maybe a little bit more than that. But it's like, okay, the difference of selling your house for um, if all of them are listed at 600 and you want to be listed at 600, instead of listing it at 590 to be the cheapest, list it at the 600, but show all of the other ones, oh, wow, this is the good deal at 600 now. So you're doing the price kind of backwards a little bit. So you're the nicest one, but matching those other prices where it's like, wow, this one clearly is the better deal for 600 instead of just pricing it a little cheaper for people that, right? So either way, you're going to leave money on the table if you price it lower, if you have a lot of competing listings, or if you spend a little bit more money to attract a sale. So it's going to cost either way, but these are the things. But I'm looking through these Toronto condos after I saw that post that there's the most amount of Toronto condos listed ever currently. And a lot of them are just vacant, iPhone photos. I wouldn't choose one over the other if I was going on showings. It's just like,
yeah, and tenanted ones as well. Like if you can get the tenant out, it's so important because not that, some tenants are unbelievably clean and great.
yeah.
But most of the time, like they don't care you're selling your house. Like if anything, they're mad because like they want to stay. So like say like, but if you get like notice from a tenant, like, hey, I'm going to be out in 2 months, just wait for the tenant to be out, get it cleaned, get it staged, call us to stage it because we're very few that stage. Just kidding. But it's true. Like, it's just like I see these virtual photos and then I go to the house and I'm like, it's not even like close. Like, it's cold. Like, no, my buyers have a hard time envisioning stuff. So it's like getting real staging furniture in there is important. So at least in this stage of the game, it's crucial. Your marketing strategy is really, really important to get out there and
Even
do
the
it.
amenities too, because like we're listing a condo in Oakville next week and even going through it. So it's a 1 bed plus den. It's vacant. So it's like, okay, we got to warm this up a little bit. But then I'm walking through the amenities and I'm like, there's a lot of times buyers like kind of put amenities to the side. However, it's like when you're factoring in the price of a condo, okay, there's your gym membership that you can cancel because now you have a gym, right? Home insurance and like all of that. So it's like factoring that into marketing too. So doing a video, being at the pool, being in the gym, waking up and having a coffee on your balcony, right? Um, parking and getting straight into the elevator with your groceries. So it's not like lugging things around, like the little things that are going to highlight the convenience of a condo. Rather than just a blank empty space and letting the buyer's mind go into the unknowns and fear. It's like almost like finishing that story for them, but then allow the buyer to take the concept and try to envision themselves. People forget about like the amenities are usually beautiful in these brand new condos. I don't see enough of pictures like that, or even like I know that, for example, my condo, it has a gym and it has all this, but I didn't even go see the amenities until a year after owning it. And it's like I'm missing out. So it's like part of the sale of a condo now becomes like, hey, it's like a lifestyle here. And this can be part of your everyday life.
Yeah, 100%. In Toronto too, a big selling feature is like having a pool, right? Like if you live in a condo in Oakville, you can call your friend and their parents probably have a pool. You can hop over there. But like if your condo has a pool, like the one across the road where I live, it's a gorgeous pool. It's kind of a big selling feature for that building. It looks at the CN Tower, right? Like you can go do work out there because there's Wi-Fi and sit at the pool and get your work done and get a tan during the week so you look better on the weekend. I don't know, I'm just giving an example, but you want to sell that lifestyle to people, and that's what Brooke and I have been focusing on this year. Is when we do a video on the home, like let's create a story of the home so people can imagine themselves living there. That's been really a focus of our business, as well as, everything we do on top of that, is just creating these videos where it's like, oh, wow, if there was a couple, they'd be like, honey, like, look at this home. Like, this is what we could have. So that's kind of the goal of like doing more marketing. And I said 95% of the sale comes from the MLS, but what about that next 5%? How do you get the next five in there? And that costs money and it costs money on us. But that's our job, is to market your home as best as we
You
can.
know what, too, is that when I go through listings, if a buyer sends me a listing and I look at it and it's done not up to the standard that I would have a listing put out, I'm like, yeah, we could probably negotiate on that because I don't see the agent as being as strong as if it's presented very well. If it's presented really, really well, like how we would put out a listing, immediately I'm just going to expect the negotiation process to be that much better in terms of harder, I suppose, with that other agent than one that didn't put much work into the marketing. Cause I'm like, "Ugh, I'll walk all over you."
Yeah.
Like, really, really.
No, I agree. You're so right. And when I go into a house like that too, and they've done a really good job, I'm like, this one's gonna sell
You have
fast.
respect. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have respect for the agent too.
And it's hard to get an appointment. You're like, someone's like, hey, let's get in that day. I'm like, just to let you know, there's already 5 cards here, and this is the first day it's on market. Like, this is not a property where we're probably going to get a huge discount on negotiation. We might even go into multiples. So we're going to have to get a little bit more aggressive on this one.
Exactly. It's about that, even just the feel to the realtors and the realtor's impression on where it should land. Like I have a seller right now that was he sent me his photos of the condo because we are waiting for the tenant to move out June 1st to list, as to your point. And then he was a little bit upset. He's in a different province and he's like, why isn't it up yet? I already sent you the photos. Like, I need this to be sold. And it's like, I'm waiting for the tenant to move out and then I'm going to clean it the next day and then stage it and then we'll get it up. The reason I don't have it up before the tenant moves up, just to do pre-marketing like he wanted me to, is because I cannot have my name on iPhone photos. I will not do it. So if you want another realtor to put up your iPhone photos and list it, then all the power to you. I recommend we wait. And I'm sorry that, it's not as quick. Like, there's the reasons why I'm waiting is for the tenant, but I will not list it. And I'm sorry I didn't voice this before, but I will not list it using your iPhone photos because I will not put, oh, what is going on?
I don't know. Did you hit something? No, just keep
That's
going.
so funny.
That's so funny.
Balloons.
Balloons came up.
And that's hilarious. I will not list it. With iPhone, I just will not put my name behind it. Like, if it's my name and I have a good amount of following and other agents and everything, I just won't have my name on a listing that looks like that. And it's because it's, again, a reflection on me too. Just like another listing is a reflection on that agent and gives me an impression on how that agent operates and who that agent is and how much we can, squeeze from them based on how they present what they're selling.
100%. Like, we're not selling vacuums here. We're selling really high priced homes that are
Vacuum.
expensive. Yeah. It's like, you can't just, you can't just sell this tomorrow on sale at Costco and someone's going to come by. Like, it takes time, it takes effort,
Yeah.
and it's a process and it's emotional, but that's why it's hard to move. So yeah, like, I would never list something with iPhone photos. Like, in my
I'd rather
entire,
not have the listing.
even leases, I spend the money on our photographer to go in because it's just embarrassing, right? Like, how do you take an iPhone, and even though you're
No.
not making a lot of money, but you're putting your name behind it, it just
Yeah.
doesn't, to me, it just doesn't sit well. You got to have it cleaned, you got to have new photos up, and if the tenant's out, like, I'll list some properties too, and I'll send my photographer there, and we'll have the tenant's belongings in there, and it's not that clean, and then once they move out, then I take new photos. I spend more money on it
Me
because,
too.
yeah, like, I don't want to hold this longer than you do. And I know time is money. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just going to spend the money. And, when you go to sell it one day, you're going to remember the hard work that I put into it. So that's kind of my 2 cents. But
Exactly.
anyways,
Yeah.
do you have the notes open? Do you want to read the last one there, or do you want me to read it?
Yeah. I will read it. Okay. Average Canadian rent hits record breaking 2,200 per month. So that's average in all of Canada. Because to us right now, being GTA, that seems low. Average rent in Canada has surpassed its all-time high, hitting a new record of 2,200 a month, according to the latest national rent report from rentals.ca and Urbanation. The record break follows last month's reported all-time highs of 2188, with average asking rents for all residential property types in Canada having increased 9.3% year over year in May, according to the report. This rate of increase is consistent with the annual growth rate recorded in April and reflects an average annual growth of 9.1% over the past 3 years.
Yeah. So rents are high. Rents are very, very high across this country, even higher in Vancouver and Toronto specifically. I know they're getting very high in Alberta. I've been seeing a lot of reports on them just absolutely dominating this market. Like, it's just crazy that, Toronto's hot, Vancouver's hot, and then all of a sudden, this marketing
Yeah.
campaign kind of goes on in Alberta, and now Alberta's calling and people flock there, right? Like it's almost like
Yeah.
Canadians are so dependent on real estate that, you know, they'll go anywhere for a deal, or they'll go anywhere for cheaper housing, or even just to invest, right? I
Hmm.
was some guy was talking, I think he was in New Brunswick, and he was saying the amount of Ontario investors that come there is crazy. And I looked at investing in Alberta. The big thing for me was I just didn't understand the market. I didn't understand the highway system. And I just didn't feel comfortable at the end of the day. And yeah, it's just, it feels like, you know, it's kind of like hot potato, people just running to another province to
Yeah.
try and find yield or a cheaper price point, but also it doesn't come with the high incomes. But although Alberta has a really good median income for their house price, like when you look at that comparison, it's pretty attractive.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah. So I don't know. To me, it's just, you know, the non-permanent residents and the students coming into Canada definitely puts upward pressure on rental prices because they usually don't come here and buy first. So yeah, kind of
Right.
sad to see. I'm hoping to kind of see rents go down, but I don't think that'll happen unless population growth declines.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, it's a bit eerie. But
It's always
anyways,
it's a balancing act, right? There's always going to be some sort of there's never going to be a balanced everything balanced, everybody's happy. Like
yeah,
never, right?
never,
It just
never.
won't happen. So it's the I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. I know our dear leader Justin Trudeau said that he's going to make
Our
housing
dear
more
leader.
he's going to make housing more affordable for young people, but house prices can't
Okay.
come down for the boomers or the older generation because that would hurt their retirement. So, in my
Great. How to contradict yourself 101.
yeah, in my opinion, the only way
Ridiculous.
housing becomes affordable for the younger generation, I guess you could argue if interest rates come down, but mostly though, I think if prices come down. So I don't know. Buckle in. I think every week there's a
Buckle
reason
in.
we have this podcast is because there's so much to always talk about.
Yeah.
Anyways, Brooke, you got anything else for our awesome viewers? You got anything boots on the
That is
ground stuff?
all.
That is all.
Uh yeah. Nothing crazy this week. Actually, my week is slower than usual. So please book a call with us. Would love to share some insight on summer market and that sort of thing with extra free time this week, which
Yes.
doesn't usually happen. And I'm sure that will change as the week goes, but we love chatting with you guys. So yeah, book a call with us. We're fun and we're good at
Yeah.
our jobs.
Yeah, we stay on top of things. We do this full time, and we love to help you guys. So yeah, yeah. Again, book a call if you really want to support the channel and support us, so we can continue doing this. Book a call, and if you want to work with us, that would be awesome. So the first link is down below in the description. If you guys are on YouTube, please like and subscribe because that helps us get more bigger, better guests on the show. And if you were on Spotify or Apple Podcast, leave a review, and then you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok for all the short form stuff. So thanks again for tuning in, guys, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Bye.